The Great Train Robbery is a 1978 British heist crime film directed by Michael Crichton. He also wrote the screenplay for the movie based on his 1975 novel of the same name. The movie stars Sean Connery, Donald Sutherland, and Leslie Ann Down. The plot for the film emerges as Edward Pierce, played by Sean Connery, plans to do something that has never been done before: rob a moving train. His target is the monthly shipment of gold destined to the Crimea for British soldiers who are there fighting the Russians. The 25,000 pounds sterling in gold is stored in 2 locked Chubb safes that requires 4 separate keys to be opened. One key is held by the president of the bank, the second key by its senior manager, and the 2 remaining keys are held by the station master. Along with his accomplices, Agar, played by Donald Sutherland, and Miriam, played by Leslie Ann Down, they set out to try to copy each of these keys. Once they have these in hand, they must then find out a way to break into the luggage compartment where the safes are located, offload the gold, and then go about their merry way without being caught. Their plan goes awry in quite a few areas, but a good thief always has a backup plan. Michael Crichton based his book and the movie only loosely on the actual crime that was committed in 1855. In real life, there were 4 criminals: Pierce, Agar, the railway guard Burgess, and a railroad clerk named Tester. All 4 keys were kept on the railway premise, 2 in London and 2 in Folkestone. They were stolen temporarily by Tester and Pierce so that Agar could duplicate them, but it turned out that the Folkestone keys were never being used anyway. The guard's van was not locked from the outside. Pierce and Agar were let in by Burgess, and a share of the loot was handed out to Tester at stations. None of the criminals were spotted at once. It was several months before the railway conceded that the crime must have occurred on the train. The details for the true crime came to light after Agar had been convicted in an unrelated crime, and his accomplices decided to steal his share of the loot instead of using it, as he had asked him to provide his mistress with the income. The mistress got word to him, and he turned Queen's evidence against the others, and he told it all. At no point in the case did anyone escape custody, as happens in the movie. Now, Sean Connery does his own stunts in this film, which is just absolutely amazing. Some of the stuff's really scary. He spent several days when they were filming the scenes with him running on top of the train. The train was supposed to be traveling at 35 miles an hour, but Connery argued that it was going much faster than that. He didn't feel comfortable. The train driver was counting the telephone poles to measure his speed. A helicopter pilot that was shooting the footage confirmed that Connery was right in his suspicion that the train was going much faster than it should have been. In actuality, it was traveling at more than 55 miles per hour. Filming these scenes provided quite a bit of difficulty for Connery, as cinders from the locomotive kept getting into his eyes. And at one point, he actually slipped while jumping between 2 cars. You can see this in the movie. It's pretty obvious. He struggled to get up, but in doing so, the clothes that he was carrying blew out of his hands, and he actually stepped out of frame to retrieve them. The camera swung around quickly to keep him in the shot. To give him a more sure footing while he was on the top of these rail cars, they incorporated sand into the paint mixture that they covered the top of the cars with to give him some more traction. When it came to casting and shooting what's called the ratting scene, and by ratting, this is a process of gambling where they take a dog and they put it in a corralled area that has a number of rats in it. The dog's job in this sport is to catch the rats and kill them, as people wager on it. The crew was pretty closed-mouthed about discussing certain details with the director. They presented only one dog, not several candidates for this job, and they told him that this was the dog that he definitely wanted. Likewise, they didn't explain much on how they would set up the scene and the activity in the ratting pit. Only when it came time for the shoot did the director realize that they had acquired an actual ratting dog, one that was used for this purpose exclusively, and they had also captured live sewer rats, which the dog killed by biting and snapping their necks with a vigorous shake. The local SPCA did find out about this and confronted the director about it, but no legal action actually resulted from the scene. That dog was present in two scenes, one in Ireland when the dog is picked up in front of Trent's house, and another back at Pinewood Studios for the actual ratting scene to be filmed. To avoid the mandatory 6-month quarantine for transporting animals between two countries, this terrier was smuggled across the Irish Sea. The character of Clean Willie was played by one of Britain's premier ballet dancers, a guy named Wayne Sleep, with the Royal Ballet Company. He did his own stunts, including scaling that Newgate prison wall at a tremendous risk of falling and hurting himself, possibly even killing himself. Initially, when he was asked by the director to climb this 60-foot wall, his response was, "I'm an actor now, not a stuntman." The director explained to him that they weren't able to find a stuntman small enough to do this job, and Sleep was 5'2". Sleep went ahead and made this climb anyway, even though he was apprehensive about doing it. Sean Connery initially turned down the role in the film after he read the script. He thought it was just too heavy. They asked him to reconsider and read the original novel that was associated with the screenplay. After meeting with the director, Connery decided to change his mind. An interesting point of trivia that I noticed was that right after the train leaves the Ashford station, the inside of the locomotive is shown where the fireman is shoveling coal into the boiler. A wristwatch is visible on his left wrist. In reality, wristwatches did not become commercially available until the end of the 19th century. A big portion of the movie is the whole idea about copying these keys in order to give them access to the gold. They use wax to make impressions, and this is basically the plot and the whole scheming that happens throughout the movie. The adventures they run into while trying to achieve this feat create quite the tense atmosphere in the film. But the method which Henry Fowler's keys are copied was changed for this movie. In the book, the character contracts syphilis, and because a rumored cure for this disease is to have intercourse with a virgin. And in the book, he does this with a 12-year-old girl who's a prostitute. Now bear in mind that in Victorian times, the age of consent for females was 12 years old. In the course of this act with this girl, his key is taken and copied for comic effect, and so not to depict anything that would end up raising red flags with the censors that they wouldn't let go through. This plot was changed to have Pierce set Fowler up with Miss Miriam, who's disguised as a high-class prostitute, and to copy his key while she's disrobing him, and then to fake a police raid on the bordello before his character can even get undressed. If you've never seen this movie, you definitely ought to take the time to watch it. It's a really well done film. The camera work is great, the acting is superb, and it leaves you on the edge of your seat most of the film. Take a look at it. I think you'll enjoy it. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll continue to chase the classics.